And then, if possible, do a follow-up observation. Consider returning for a follow-up visit. And maybe you could combine this with a scheduled interview. This will help you examine other aspects of the place or activity, try to answer questions that you still have. Consider whether the impression that you had on the first visit actually holds, and what else you could note that would maybe make your descriptions a little more vivid. There's some advice in terms of your observation. So you can see it might take a little bit of time. So again, make sure that as you are going through your invention process, your brainstorming process, you keep that in mind. A few notes about interviewing. One is come prepared, please. And in addition to paper, pen, or laptop or recorder, bring preliminary questions and be prepared for follow-up questions, of course. But come with the questions that you definitely want answered. And if anything else comes up in the interview, then you'll be prepared to do what's next, and that is, of course, take notes. Write down potentially important information, anything that is so important. You don't have to write down every single thing, but write down what you think is important information. Write down things that are quotable. Describe the interviewee's tone, gestures, mannerisms, anything that would provide more vivid description and kind of add to the overall impression. One of the goals of interviews is to generate anecdotes from your interviewee. So ask how your interviewee got involved in the first place. If there's been a high or a low point with their involvement in the group, maybe a breakthrough or a key event worth noting. Ask the interviewee what concerns them most about the group. What has been their maybe their biggest influence on the group. So some nice leading questions like that will help generate some really good stories that you could include in your ethnography, and that takes a lot of the burden off of writing off of you. If you can get all this information from your interviewee, you can try to generate what are called process narratives. Ask how something is done, how they prepare for something, how something works. What happens if something breaks? Have these events or rituals or traditions or whatever it is that they're doing, have they always done it the same way? Have things changed? How do they think these things could be improved, these activities improved? So there's some questions to help you out there. You can ask them to compare and contrast. Ask them what kind of group this is and how it's like and unlike other groups of its kind, how it compares now to what it was like in the past. And to help you think of your perspective, ask why the interviewee thinks that the group is important, why the group is needed or maybe even helpful, and maybe ask them who would agree or disagree with them. How do they think they contribute to other groups, the other community, or the larger community? What are the shortcomings of the group? How could the group be improved? So I hope you wrote down a lot of those questions, because those are good, solid questions to ask your interviewee. Get some really good information out of them. Let's see. All right. So we have prepared notes. We don't really have to take care of visuals. Yeah, if you're going to take a photograph, again, ask if it's okay. If you take their photograph and include it in your ethnography, that's totally fine. And same thing. Reflect soon on the interview. Take 5 minutes right after your interview to review your notes. Listen or watch any recordings that you made at the scene to add to your notes. Focus on first impressions. And mark the promising material. For example, you might find anything that's new or surprising that you weren't expecting, right? Any other sensory details that you could use to create a vivid portrait? Quotables, already mentioned. Questions that you didn't get answered that maybe you need to follow up later. Any other insights or ideas to research further? So those are some of the things to be thinking about as you reflect. Again, if you do it then, we've got to reflect, so then write up your interview. Again, another few paragraphs. Decide what to quote, summarize, paraphrase, or just leave out. Again, make sure you describe the person's tone, their gestures, their appearance, any other details about the place. You may decide not to include all this information, but it might help you figure out what's important and interesting. And again, the point of this is that it all helps lead you to your rough draft. And then, if needed, do a follow-up interview, just like you do a follow-up observation. And usually follow-up interviews you can sometimes do through email, or and you usually do follow-up interviews just to ask for clarification, or if there's any other kind of information that they thought about that you think that they might want in your ethnography. Right, then the last thing I want you to be thinking about for this invention and research process. Next week we'll talk about like the drafting of the essay. This week we're going to focus just on getting all this stuff set up for you. As this is part 3. Work on developing your perspective on the subject, on this group that you're going to be researching. Write for a few minutes on or exploring your perspective of the subject. What is it about the subject that seems important or meaningful? Because this is going to shape your lead to or shape your thesis. That's going to be your argument, what you think is important or what you think the meaning of this group is. So for example, if you're focusing on the facilities, what is interesting to you about the facilities? What rituals or activities are practiced there? Who comes to these facilities? What is its function, or what are the different functions of these of this facility or facilities in relation to the activities or events that go on there? Think about how they've changed for good or bad, how maybe outsiders are initiated into this group somehow, how they join, who benefits from the activities, what is the purpose, the value that you see in these activities. If you're focusing on the group or the people themselves, a lot of things that you could be focusing on. What is their sense of identity? Who do they think that they are? And again, how is communication involved in all of that? What are their values? What are their attitudes about different things? Is there a hierarchy? What do they think about the hierarchy? What do they think about their role in the community? So a lot of different directions that you can take from there. And then you also want to think about how do I want to designate this? I'll just like a double star, I suppose. Is your purpose for readers. Think about who your readers are going to be. Who are your intended readers? What are they likely to know and think about the group that you're writing on? What about your subject you think will be surprising to them? That might be something you want to focus on. How can you make your perspective interesting to the readers? And you make things interesting. You make your perspective interesting by bringing out unique and special things that your audience probably did not already know or haven't really thought about. And in some ways you might be able to even help your readers examine their own preconceptions or stereotypes about the group, depending on who the group is, and then lead them to think about the group's significance, perhaps. And so all of these things are going to be working together to help you create your thesis about what does communication within the group mean? What is interesting or important about this group, and how the different ways that they communicate through activities, through the written word, through oral communication, through visuals. What's going on in the language within this group.